How do we embrace capitalism without greed taking hold? We say we believe in free markets, but what happens when freedom itself starts to serve greed? Is capitalism still freedom if only a few are truly free? Or has our system become something else, power wearing the mask of liberty? Capitalism built this nation. It rewarded hard work, risk, and creativity. But somewhere along the way, the pursuit of opportunity turned into the worship of accumulation. Capitalism isn't broken because people want success. It's broken because we stop asking what success is for. Freedom without conscience isn't freedom, it's chaos. And capitalism without moral restraint isn't prosperity, it's greed wearing the flag of freedom. We've built a strong economy, but a fragile morality. And the imbalance always comes due. Research tells us capitalism doesn't require greed to work, it just doesn't prevent it. Economists know people act from many motives: ambition, curiosity, pride, and compassion. Markets can run all of them, but the one that dominates is self-interest. Psychologists find that as wealth rises, empathy often falls. The higher we climb, the easier it is to forget who's still on the ground. But communities with strong social bonds, faith groups, churches, civic clubs, tend to resist the pull, because where people stay connected, greed struggles to take root. But can greed be constrained? History proves we can restrain greed when we build guardrails around it. In post-war America, prosperity was matched by community and faith. Churches weren't just houses of worship, they were the heart of the towns, teaching responsibility, humility, and gratitude. Germany called it a social market economy, freedom with moral duty. The Nordic nations built similar systems, capitalism with conscience. Every one of them worked until greed outpaced gratitude, because greed never quits, it only waits for conviction to fade. But there's a psychological paradox. Greed isn't an economic glitch, it is an extension of free will. The same freedom that lets a man build a business can also tempt him to take more than he needs. Capitalism rewards ambition, but ambition can become appetite. You can regulate behavior, but you can't regulate desire, not without destroying freedom itself. You can't outlaw greed without outlawing freedom. So the only way capitalism survives is if we learn to govern ourselves, not through force, but through conscience. And that conscience doesn't come from government. It's taught at home, reinforced in community, and shaped in the church. So, how would this look in reality? Well, there are living examples of capitalism done right, where success is shared, not hoarded. Employee-owned companies, or ESOPs for short, prove that shared ownership works. At firms like Burns & McDonnell, every worker owns a stake into the company. That changes everything, because when you own a part of something, you protect it. Stakeholder capitalism reaches for the same balance, measuring success not just in profit, but in how business treats people and place. That's not socialism, it's stewardship. And it echoes a truth the church has always taught: to whom much is given, much is required. So where does that put the United States? Well, America's system has always been a mix, free markets guided by public good. But over time, we lost that moral balance. The invisible hand became a closed fist. We call it crony capitalism, when markets serve the powerful, not the people. When wealth buys protection and laws become favors. It's not free enterprise anymore, it's a collusion in a suit and a tie. And that's what happens when a nation's economy forgets its soul. So where do we go from here? The answer isn't to abandon capitalism, it's to redeem it. We need strong markets, strong families, and strong faith. Because morality doesn't grow in boardrooms, it's formed in living rooms and sanctuaries. That's why we should encourage local business, transparency, and competition. And rebuild what greed has hollowed out: trust, humility, and service. A system can't stay free if its people won't stay honest. Freedom demands character, and character is taught long before a person enters the market. So what are the obstacles and paradoxes? Well, we can write better laws, but we can't legislate virtue. We can regulate behavior, but we cannot regulate desire, not without destroying freedom itself. And this isn't a new idea. It's as old as humanity himself. Ronald Reagan put it pretty plainly. He said, "Government can address society's problems, but it cannot cure what ails the human heart, because no amount of legislation can replace character. No statute can substitute for conscience. A free nation doesn't survive on rules, it survives on the integrity of its people." Greed is the shadow of freedom, and every time a society loses its faith, the shadow grows. That's the paradox. The freer we are, the more responsibility we must carry. Not through force, but through personal morality, community, and conviction. So if we want a moral economy, we have to rebuild a moral people. So in conclusion, the truth isn't that capitalism is evil, it's that freedom is fragile, and it can't survive without a moral compass. Every generation must decide what it worships: profit or principle, greed or gratitude, self or service. We can't build a moral economy with immoral hearts. The system won't change until we do. Capitalism can't survive without character. Freedom can't last without faith. Maybe the question isn't whether capitalism can survive greed. Maybe it's whether we can survive our own success.